Hi, I'm Lisa Andria, Transformation Life Coach. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast, where guests share their inspiring stories of leaping out of their comfort zone with confidence and power, and into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's listen to their life-changing stories so that we can all learn how to gain the courage to take a leap of faith into a life that we love so that we can all be ladies who leap. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. I appreciate that you're taking the time to listen to the inspiring stories of people that took a leap of faith to reach new heights in their life. My goal is that their stories inspire you to take your first leap of many to follow your own unique dreams. Today, my guest is Laura Ora. Laura Ora helps audiences stop overthinking and overcomplicating their next move, allowing them to get what they truly want. As an all-around visionary, Laura Ora is the first to push you out of your comfort zone, something I know very well, and the last to hug you as you head to your next level of your life. Let her guide you to stop fighting yourself and start embracing a life that you feel alive in. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, Miss Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I am very impressed with everything that you've built in your business. I got the pleasure of meeting you at the Heather Burgett PR, I think it's considered PR mastermind. And so they put us in breakout rooms, and I think I was very lucky to have you in one of my breakout rooms. So I appreciate you coming on, and it's been fun just reading all about you and understanding. You have a top 100 podcast. That's amazing.
I do. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of love and a lot of time and patience, but yes, something I'm very proud of.
Yeah. So you took your first leap in 2007 while you were 6.5 months pregnant. Listen, ladies, 6.5 months pregnant, and basically you never turned back. So can you talk to that experience that led you to owning your first business, especially at that time in your life?
Yeah, I say, maybe it was courage, maybe it was hormones, maybe it was a mix of two, right? If we rewind for a second, I was fresh out of college. I had secured a degree in graphic design, and my first job, my first real job, right, as a professional, was as a graphic designer for the phone book. So I designed, yeah, that's got a timestamp on it. I designed the yellow page ads that were in the back of the phone book for our local community, and it was just as exhilarating as it sounds. And it was such an experience though that I'm always grateful for the things that I love and the things that I found that I didn't love so much, because there I also met my best friend, and I learned so much, and so much came from that. But I knew in my soul that I could not keep doing it, right? It was draining me. I am a creative butterfly. I don't like to be put into a box. It just wasn't my jam. And there was an incident at work that just did not align with me. I went home and cried to my husband. I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. At the same time, I am 6.5 months pregnant. We were starting a family. And he was like, then don't. I had been already freelancing on the side as a graphic designer. So I had some clients built up, nothing that was paying the bills yet, but there was a little bit of momentum. And I tell you what, Lisa, it was just the spark of like, I can't and I won't do this anymore, and I can figure it out. So I went back to work. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I quit my job and started my business from my couch.
That has to be so much courage and belief in yourself at even that age, because in your 20s, you don't always even thinking about the future, let alone believing in yourself and wanting to do something that you love. But you had that already in you. Where did that come from?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I've just always been driven, right? I'm the oldest of four. I've carried a lot of responsibility in my life. I grew up way sooner than I should have. So I think some of it was conditioned, right? That I was taught to be a leader at a very young age. I was given a lot of responsibilities, and any other oldest daughters in the room that are listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But also I think it's just who I am as a human. I don't know. I'm into astrology and like human design and just I love understanding myself more. And when I look at those types of things, not that I need validation, but there's something very validating about reading about myself and being like, oh, that's why I'm like that. Right. So, I'm a Sagittarius. So we're just creative and we want to explore and we don't like to be put into boxes. And I think it's just who I am. I'm just allowing myself to be who I was always meant to be before the world told me what I should be. Right. And that's what one of the things that I have the joy of teaching other people to do now.
That's fantastic. Being an entrepreneur is a rough road. It's tough. It's very tough. I'm learning it for the first time over the last several years because my family were not entrepreneurs, so I didn't have that driving force in me, even though I'm an Aries. So we're both fire signs.
Hey, I mean, listen, you and I are like peas in a pod.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is an Aries, and we complement one another quite well.
Yeah, yeah. However, it appears you've learned so much from your struggle to be true to yourself with your first business. So you had that first business, but it wasn't, like you said, really, well, you didn't say that. Tell us about that first business and how it helped you to learn more about being true to yourself.
Yeah, my first business I ran for 16 years. 16
Wow.
years in branding. And I loved it. Don't get me wrong. Like I started it because I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can figure it out. I have more to offer. So how can I do that? No one else can really like handle me. I don't know if that's the right term that I want to use, but like I I need to be able to do what I want to do, right? And because that's where I make my most impact and it's where I'm the happiest internally and externally. So, I built this branding agency. I ran it, solo for quite some time, then started to add on employees, and then we got office buildings and like, we did the whole growth business thing. And what I found over the years though is that especially as an entrepreneur, but I think in just about anything that you do, especially big changes that you make in your life, is that the things that you've not yet dealt with internally don't go away, they get amplified. So as a business owner, all those emotional boxes that you've shoved under the bed or in the back of the closet, they don't stay under there and collect dust. They show up in really interesting ways, even if you're conscious about it or not. So one of the challenges that I have been working through my entire life, and that I still work through, to be honest with you, is the fear of abandonment. So I grew up with abandonment as a child. So I was conditioned to believe that, I was not good enough. I had to expend myself to make people happy in order to keep them around me. And I had not properly dealt with that or processed that. Not intentionally. I just didn't think that I needed to. Um, but it turned into this really not awesome people pleasing type of situation, right? So in my business, what I found myself doing was like I built a team as a family, which I loved, except I wanted to do everything to make everyone happy. And what I didn't realize what I was doing was I was trying to keep them from leaving.
Wow.
And I ultimately ended up building a business that ran me instead of me running it. The ideas got diluted. My bank account was non-existent. At the worst of it, the height of it, I had 6 months of my own paychecks laying on my desk waiting to be cashed because I was afraid of letting somebody else go because I didn't want them to be upset. So if I paid everyone else and I put myself last, then everybody would stay.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was just, it
That's
was,
familiar, I'm sure, to a lot of people. Putting
yeah,
everybody first, thinking that, oh, they'll just be my friend. In your case, they'll just keep continuing to work with me. It is definitely a gosh, people pleaser. I relate very directly.
yeah. I mean, and that's an extreme type of story, but it happened in all different types of ways, little pieces, big pieces. That was just kind of the eruption point, so to speak, when I'm sitting there looking at all these checks and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? You know what I mean? So I had to go through the process of healing that, working on my mental health, getting into a therapist, really processing those thoughts and feelings. Where are they coming from? What are my actual fears? And really just embracing that part of myself. And as I started to do that, I realized like, oh, I can see so clearly now what I had done. And so when I got to the point where I decided to sell that business, I don't, we can talk about that if you want to. Um, when I started my next business, which is what I'm doing now, speaking and coaching, I'm like, I will not do this the same way this time. But I know better now. I know differently now because I got the right support to support myself.
Yeah, and when you actually change your mindset, and I basically what I do with my clients, your unconscious mind, that all those traumas are stuck in there. And when you release them, and however way that you do it, now your reality has shifted. The reality that you were a year before is completely different than the reality that you have now. You are much more aware. And when you have that awareness, then you can transform yourself, right? It's all that process of becoming aware, releasing it, and then changing how you see reality, how you see people that react to you, that you can be imperfect. This is something even just yesterday that came up for me, that you can be imperfect and still people will like you. And if some don't, they're just not going to like you.
It's okay.
That's just the way it is. There's no getting around it, and there's no way you're going to change their mind.
Yeah. And what I found in that situation was I was so afraid of other people abandoning me that I abandoned myself.
Oh,
I abandoned myself. And so everything that you were just saying reminds me so much of, the things that we're trying to get from others are often the things that we need to give ourselves first.
yeah.
We have to give it to ourselves first. And so I had to start learning how to nurture myself and how to love myself, how to be okay alone. The really ironic thing is the universe always has an interesting way of teaching us things that we need to know, especially when we don't listen. Is I spent a lot of time. Now I do have my husband and my son that live with me, so I wasn't fully alone. But in my business world, I spent the next couple of years alone. Like I reabsorbed a lot of the roles myself. I went solo for quite some time. This was in the height of COVID. I had to make some big decisions to let the team go. And I spent a lot of time alone. And so I was forced to learn how to be okay being alone. And
That's
it was so powerful, terrifying at first, but it taught me that, like, hey, I'm actually okay. I'm okay. I'm actually better than okay. I actually really kind of like myself. And the people that are intended to be in my world, they'll be here. And if they're not, there's nothing in my world and in my power that I can do to force them to stay here. And why should I in the first place?
And
So,
how
oh my
exhausting that was.
gosh. I
Releasing that is just such a weight off your shoulders. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to be a people pleaser. And I don't think people realize how much energy it takes until they've actually come to the realization that that's not the way to live. And it
yeah.
also means that you're not attracting the right people to you because you're being this people pleaser, you're opening up your heart, and there are people that come in and try and take advantage.
Yep.
They're looking for somebody who has that type of open heart and that way, and they just take advantage of you. So when not that you're having a closed heart, but that you're opening it to the right people because you now love yourself and you don't have that idea that you have to be perfect for people to like you. It's just
Exactly.
another
Yeah.
mindset.
It's taken me on this amazing journey where, like, my give a damn is just so small. Like, I am who I am, and I am, for the first time, I'm 39 and three quarters right now at time of recording. For the first time in my life, I'm like, I'm just me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not only good enough, it's freaking great because I'm quirky and I'm blunt and I'm direct and I'm honest and I'm funny. And the right people love those things about me, right? They invite me in. I've been able to build this amazing community now on the other side in the second part of this journey that come to me and love and listen to me, right? You talked about the podcast, the Gutsy podcast being a top 100. You want to hear like some raw direct guidance? Take a stroll through a few of my episodes. It's done with such love, but it's telling you the things that you need to hear that everyone else butters you up for, right? So
Love
just
that.
being
I
being
think
able
you are someone to strive people to be. Just be yourself. Yeah.
just be, and I'll tell you, it takes so much more time, money, and effort to be something that you're not than if you just be yourself. Things get easier, relationships get deeper, opportunities present themselves in amazing ways. It's so much easier to be who I am, right? And it doesn't feel like that in the moment, but when you lean in and you continuously work on and towards this, I mean, you just get to a point where you're like, I don't want to be anything other than who I am.
Yeah, because there is periods when you're making this transition, like I always say, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens. It's painful at times. You mentioned your son and your husband. Are was that the support system that you used to go through this transition? Because in the beginning, like you said, you were alone. It's just not easy.
Yeah, I mean, my husband is my rock. He's my best friend. We've been together for 25 years. We were high school sweethearts. I mean, that's a whole nother episode in its own, right? I mean, when you're together that long and that young, you go through some iterations together and separately as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's my number one. He believes in me when I don't believe in me, and I'm really grateful for him. And my son, he just when I had my son, so I had him just a few months after I had my business, right? Like I was literally giving birth in all aspects of my life at that phase.
Right.
And he gave me a courage that I didn't know that I had. He gave me just this sense of love that I was not familiar with from growing up. And so, yeah, he's a beautiful human being. He's also creative and he's kind and he has the biggest heart. And I just always like I feel home with them, right? For a lot of my life, I didn't feel at home, and with them, I do, right? I do have some like my siblings, I feel home with them, and some other wonderful people, but with them, they're my home base, and I also lean on mentors, right? I don't pretend to do shit alone. I have wonderful mentors that have guided me on the way. I have my mother-in-law, who's always been an incredible source to me and support. My dad, who was not biologically my father but took the role as my father, is always a phone call away and is one of my number one supporters, right? uh, I don't pretend to do this alone, and it's also a great reminder, and even conversations like this reminding myself how many people I really do have in my world. And if you don't have somebody in your world, there are other people out there, right? I think sometimes we operate in silos, we forget, or especially if you're on an entrepreneurial journey or you're doing something that's very different than what um, the people in your world are used to. Finding communities, something as simple as Facebook communities, LinkedIn communities, things that are happening in your local area, right? There are 1000% at least one other person, but I guarantee you more other people that want to cheer you on. How can I help you? So don't do this stuff alone.
No, that is so important. And I stress that community is really important. However, wherever you have the community, if it's, with a business coach that has developed a really nice community, which I've been lucky to have joined also, or a networking group locally or online where we met, that's a really nice community. And I've met a lot of people, a lot of women in that community also that are striving to be the best that they can. And make sure you surround yourself with the right community too. I mean, you want to be around people that want to strive to grow themselves emotionally and also, their business and themselves in a certain way that is bringing positivity to you and enhancing your life too. And it's just community is very important. I'm so glad you brought it up. So, how does it feel now? Once you took the direction away from your first business, how did it feel to start doing something that you love? What impact did it have on your life?
Oh my gosh. So I am 10 and a half months on the other side of selling my business. Selling it was hard and unpredictable and terrifying and also exactly what I needed to do. And so you want to talk about taking a leap. That was another leap, because I had these thoughts of, this is what my reputation is in. This is what people know me for. This is how I, pay our mortgage. This is everything that I've ever known, right? Like I could write a whole book on all the things that I said why I shouldn't do it, but I only needed one reason why I needed to. I was done, right? I was just done. I I completed everything that I wanted to. I achieved more than I thought that I could. I had saved it through a recession and a COVID, right? Like
Yeah.
I was completed, and I was also sick physically, right? I developed PCOS. I have anxiety. My body is just out of whack in a lot of different ways. And I'm like, I can't heal when I'm still forcing myself to do something that I know that I'm done doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I had been speaking and coaching alongside the agency, but I wasn't giving it my full time. And I kept getting mad at myself because nobody wants to hire me to speak. And I don't have enough time for this. And nobody's going to do this for me. And I'm like, Laura, it's because you got to make a decision, girl. So I let it go. And I tell you that backstory because it's important to understand that now, even just 10 and a half months later, my entire life has changed I, in ways that I can't even fathom, right? I've prioritized my health this year for the first time in probably 20 years. Am I where I want to be yet? No, but I'm on the right path. And I've never been able to say that before. My mental health is so much better. My anxiety is practically non existent. I have one of the things that I really craved was just white space and time in my calendar. Before it was just packed up and things all day long. And now it's like there's just so much more free flow in my life, right? I was very intentional about what I wanted. And I think that's really important for everybody to understand is like you have to get really clear about what it is that you actually want. Because otherwise, you're going to do a bunch of things and you're going to walk in a bunch of circles and not feel fulfilled. So I was very clear about what I wanted and how I wanted this next chapter of my life to look. And guess what? I'm getting paid to speak. I'm doing the thing that I never thought was possible. I thought this was only just for like, the Brene Browns and the Tony Robbins and the Mel Robbins of the world. Like, oh no, it's actually for Laura Ora too. That's kind of cool. So I'm starting to get paid to speak and my podcast is growing and I'm connecting and working with the most amazing women around the world. And you know what? Above all, Lisa, I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't even think it needs to be any more than that.
Yeah, because you're putting yourself first. And you know that your mind and body connection is so strong. So when you listen to your mind and what you needed, your body follows suit. That connection
Exactly.
is so strong. I mean, you were able to give it the attention it needed, but also there's some freeing up of some the anxiety and things that actually helps your body and
Oh,
your,
absolutely.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
you can't heal when you're constantly in fight or flight, right?
no.
When your body always thinks that you're at war, nothing's healing. Everything's, got their dukes up,
And when you
they're
hold in resentment because you're not where you want to be, that's going to come out in illnesses and problems that you have and aches and pains and all that kind of stuff in your body.
yeah.
So releasing that is huge for you. It's huge for everybody that does it. This is a great lesson because I love when you said that you have to clearly define what it is that you want. I don't even know if I've done that myself yet. And so now that you've even said that, that's something I'm going to do for myself because I have been on a much shorter journey as well. No, you're 11, 10 and a half months in of being a coach and getting paid to speak. It's been a little longer for me as coaching, but still defining what I want instead of just running after things is a really good piece of advice. Really good piece of advice. I've heard it before, but when you're talking, I don't know, it just kind of resonated a little stronger with me this time. So I'm going to say the last thing is that I ask people, other than getting a hold of you, because this has been a fantastic conversation, before you give us how to reach you and how to learn more about you for the audience. I like people, my guests, to share their favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation. Some people have shared poems or prayers, and I know that if even one person is affected by it, we've done our job. So, what do you have to share with us?
I will share with you my own personal favorite quote. This is a quote that um, took me viral on TikTok, which helped me grow my audience.
Ooh,
Um, and it's the one that anytime I talk about, people are like, what did you just say? So, the thing that you want the most is often behind the thing that you resist the most. I'll share it one more time.
yeah.
The thing that you want the most is often behind the thing that you resist the most. So, if you start to dig in and look at what you're resisting, you will uncover what's really, truly, deeply important to you.
Wow. That hits close to home, I think, for a lot of people that are listening. Yes,
Yeah, it rings a bell. It rings a
yeah.
bell. It gets
And
attention.
and that's why it's worth it to become aware and look at what it is that you're resisting, whether it be trusting others, whether it be being yourself and being able to be vulnerable and authentic and not worrying about it, whatever it is, you're right. That's going to be what you probably want the most. Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, please share podcast, website. I love that you call yourself Laura Aura.
Yep.
Not sure if you can explain where that came from, or is that
Yeah.
truly your name? I don't think so. Maybe.
No, it's funny. It's a good conversation starter. I'll give you the quick story of it. So when I started my agency, the very first thing that I did was I joined a networking group. I didn't know anybody. I knew nothing about business, but somebody said, you need to join this group. And I was like, okay. So I did. Every week, we would go around the table and give testimonials to somebody else in the group. And at one point, a lady stood up and said, Laura, there's something about you. I don't know what it is. It's this aura, this Laura aura. And I was like, hmm, there's something about that. I don't know what that is, but I put it in my back pocket. And I'm like, there's something in this for me. And then 15 years went by, right? And when I started to speak, when I started to coach, when I started to put myself out there in a new way, I found that it just lit me up from the inside out in a whole new way. And what I realized is that I am Laura Aura. Laura Aura to me is the combination of my inner child, my playfulness, my adventureness, my goofy, silly, adventurous side, combined with my higher self, my deep knowing, my intuitive side, my guide, my shining light in this world, combined with me, present day self, the one that's executing all these amazing things that these two people are giving me. So Laura Aura is the manifestation and the combination of my entire self.
Well, that was a great story. Also, I love it. I'm so glad I asked. I didn't have any idea, although Aura did, I did have some concept of what it was about, but that was a great story to share. So now you know that she's Laura Aura. And how else can they reach you? What's the name of the podcast again, and where people can reach you?
Yeah, the Gutsy podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you'd like to listen. And if you go to lauraaura.com, that's the hub for all things me. That's where you can find my social links. I have a community called the Gutsy Collective, which I love to support women inside of. So if you're looking for a community, you're looking for your people, chances are we can probably help you. And of course, my coaching program. So I would love to chat with you. And if you heard this episode or watch this, pop over to one of my socials and say hi. I'd love to chat.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on my little podcast, Ladies Who Leap.
Hey, don't call it little. Let's call it what it is. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching or listening. Subscribe, find out. I do release on the 1st and the 8th of every month. And I appreciate everybody that's been listening. And I know that you're going to gain a lot from this discussion with Laura Aura. So have a fabulous rest of your day. And thank you. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens.